break them into two sessions. The first session will be made up of the first two papers, which we already heard from him. The first one being the imperative of builders' involvement for successful housing development, which is to be presented by Dr. Ibrahim Inua. Are you here? Where's yours? Since the Okay, Dr. Inua Ibrahim holds a PhD in construction project management from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, Kenya in 2014, an MSc in construction management from the University of Jos, and a BTech in quantity surveying from ATBU Bauchi. He's a corporate member of Nigerian Institute of Building and a registered quantity surveyor. Dr. Inua has several experience both in and outside academics. He is presently a lecturer, a senior lecturer at ATBU Bauchi, and he has several publications internationally and nationally. He was the head of Department of Quantity Surveying ATBU Bauchi between 2015 and 2017. And held so many positions in ATBU. So I have the honor to present to you Dr. Ibrahim Inua, who is currently going to present the first paper. Thank you very much. Clap for him. The next person is Builder Chuks Omefe, who is going to be the moderator. Is he available here? This chairman of fellows are... Fellows, you are... Yes. Yes. Our moderator is Builder Chuks Omefe, Fellow, Nigerian Institute of Building, PPN IOB, and a very experienced builder. You are welcome, sir. Can we also call okay. Can we also call the president of Redan? Is he available? Or a representative? Redan, among the discussants. Then the DG, Federation of Construction Industry. Is he available? Builder Professor Dada Martin. The Executive Secretary of FCDA. Are you available? Okay. Professor Okoli, come up. You are one of the discussants. Professor Dada will join you. Yes. Yeah, moderator. just exercise a little patience. We are trying to, the chairman of the fellows meeting has been going on since morning. Most of our members are there. That's why we are just starting the way we are doing. We are waiting for them to join us, but I think we can proceed. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you. I feel honored to be part of this very important gathering. As Professor Achenu, he happens to be my lecturer at University of Jos. I still hold him in high esteem. I'm honored to be part of you, and my task today is to present a paper titled The Imperative of Builders' Involvement for Successful Housing Development. I want to say maybe I'm lucky. Part of my building or molding was done by builders, so it's not a mistake that I'm standing before you. Maybe it's a little bit payback period. Well, the imperatives of builders' involvement for successful housing development. Excuse me. Yeah. By introduction, what is a building? You have different dimensions of building based on the imperative or the definition and the benefit of what building is. You have different authors who have tried to define what building is. In a nutshell, we know building is just a shelter that provides habitation for humans. But it goes beyond that. It has some other benefit that is attributed to it. So generally, I try to summarize what a building is by coiling from Jinadu that building is an enclosed structure with a bundle of services. We're talking about other essential services that have to be, other supporting services that provides human with prestige and accommodation. Well, the sector that is responsible for building provision is very the sector that is responsible for the provision of housing is very, very important because it can be used, or it is used, or it reduces poverty, generates employment, and as well as enhance economic recovery. But understanding the significance of building, various governments have tried to establish programs through research and finances to see how they can better adequate provision of housing. However, the problem with the programs they've been establishing is that the program have been one-sided. There have been much emphasis has been placed on the issue of finance, negating the roles of the professionals that are involved in doing that. Of course, we should know the issue of housing is universal, but it's more acute in the developing countries. They are short of really involving professionals to. So I say, however, housing sector contribute to economic recovery and growth in many nations. The state of housing development in developing countries is very poor compared to developing countries. One of the professional that is very, very vital in the provision of housing is the builder. So the builder, we said, the builder who is very influential in housing development is poorly patronized due to unawareness or usurpation of function. What I mean by this is that it's because of the unawareness of the public about the role of builders. Some other professions have taken the responsibilities of builders. So the aim of this research or this paper presentation is to investigate the imperative of builders' involvement for housing, for successful housing development, with a view of enlightening the public on the role of builders in housing development. Of course, the approach, the research takes this approach. is purely exploratory. Sorry, I'm having problem with the pointer. Can you please? But the study is founded on the philosophy of ontology. Ontology simply means what is out there for us to know, trying to see what exists, what is outside that we can learn. In a nutshell, what is out there within the context of our industry that's relating to building. And this ontology, the philosophy we adopted, informs what? To use what they call the exploratory design through literature review as a standalone approach. It means we are only using literature review to do the investigation. Of course, the review follow three higher levels of what they call the Bloom's revised taxonomy of educational objective. I'm quoting from Bloom's, he's an educationalist who says that for you to learn about something or to be fully aware of something through learning or education, it has to follow this 6 steps, starting from the lower order of thinking skills to the higher order of thinking skills. It says for you to understand or for learning process to be complete, you must be able to remember what is out there, what is taught. And if you really remember what is taught or what you understand, then you should be able to, you must remember it before you understand. If you remember something, you understand it. And if you understand it, you can apply it. And if you can apply it, then it means it can be analyzed as well as it can be evaluated. Then you can create something out of it. That is what really completes the full stage of learning. But according to Bloom's, that if you are using this step of learning to conduct literature review, the 3 higher steps of understanding knowledge is the most appropriate. No, still go here. This is like. Sorry, I'm having problem with the slide, please.
Let him be.
No, go back. Go back. Yeah. Yeah. No, go back a little to the second slide, please. Still go back, yeah. A little. Is to look at what constitutes successful housing delivery. So this study uses literature review purely to conduct its research. Next slide, please. Yeah, the problems of housing development in Nigeria. Of course, I summarize the problem of housing development in Nigeria into 4 subsections. The problem of housing in Nigeria can be said to be social, it can be economical, it can be political, as well as environmental. The social problem of housing comes as a result of population explosion, where we are having rural-urban drift, resulting into rapid urbanization, and that has resulted to over 50 million housing unit deficits. That informs the economical problems that we are facing, that we must have about 12 trillion naira to offset that housing deficit. Other problems are economical, or high cost of building material, poor wages and savings culture, poor housing mortgage financing, and that has resulted to a political problem because housing contributes to economic growth of the nation. There's the issue of lack of sustainability commitment from the part of the government. There is poor funding of housing agencies, we're aware of that, and poor rural basic infrastructure. And that is informing the rural-urban drift that is causing the population explosion that we are experiencing. Then environmentally, most of the housing we have, despite being short in terms of supply, poor quality housing, and prevalence of slums scattered around the country. Next slide. And what is the role of housing development in national development? It's very, very important. We all need shelter to conduct our activities, and in terms of housing, we talked about habitation. So housing, one of the roles it has in national development is that it's a consumption good. We all consume housing. We need it. The second role is place. The investment in housing generate employment and create income, as well as form what we call the capital formation. Of course, we collect rent from housing. It's a capital asset. Then it plays a macroeconomic role too, where other investments are not yielding dividend. Housing remains the panacea for that to happen, especially in developing countries where you are having high inflation rate like Nigeria. Yeah, next slide. Well, then what constitutes a success? Housing itself, or housing development, is more of a, housing development is a project. So all other parameters that defines the project success defines housing development success. A lot of authors have given parameters that defines housing success, but what I did was to summarize what are the indicators that informs that our housing development is successful. That is, they say for housing development to be successful, it must to be linked to all these factors I've identified. It has to have some kind of community involvement, technical innovation, uncertainty pertaining the housing development should be taken care of for success. Politics should be considered. Schedule duration urgency, we're talking about time so that you don't have cost overrun. Financial contract, legal factors, implementation process. According to Chitkari, these factors for you to attain success need a professional that has the technical and managerial skills. And one of such builder is one of such professional that can drive a housing development to successful fruition. Yeah, next slide. Now, what then are the imperatives of builders for successful housing development? When you say something is imperative, you're trying to look at its relevance. How important is a builder? Of course, we all know a builder is said, according to NIOB, is a specialist that is trained and statutorily registered for the production of building, construction of building and maintenance, for human use and protection. He is able to do this with the knowledge he acquires by drawing from the science of material and structure, economics, statistics, human resource management, machineries and financial management. So for success, for a builder, he has to possess this. For us to understand how imperative a builder is within the context within the domain of his operation, we have to look at it from two contexts. One, a builder is very relevant in housing development by being a resource person. We have a lot of researches that have been conducted on alternative building materials for cost effectiveness and environmental friendliness. You have other researches that are conducted on how to improve or how to advise the public on the route to go in acquiring a house, or how to better the professionals that are responsible for manufacturing the house. I'm talking about in terms of contractors. It extends to the extent of even a builder guiding you on how to select a contractor that is appropriate to conduct research. So as a resource person, builders conduct research to improve on how housing development can be successful. Then practically, those in the field, they are equipped with the technicality to guide the production of building. They can as well assemble resources that you need for the production of building, and so on and so forth. It's enumerated in the paper I've given. So a builder can as well be imperative in terms of project and construction management. Next slide. In conclusion, we said this study is investigated the imperative of builders for successful housing development with a view to enlightening the public on the role of builders in housing development. The study is purely through an exploratory design using just literature review. It is found from literature that a builder is very contribute to successful housing delivery through their involvement as resource persons as well as project managers. So our recommendation is that government of developing countries should exploit the full potentials of builders, professional builders, for housing development. That's my coming to conclusion with it. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Before response and before handing over to the moderator, who is now the king of this session, I want to make an announcement. Somebody left his car or her car keys at the vehicle. What is this? Okay. Yes, the vehicle is a Peugeot car 406 DR807 ABC. Keys it's at the gate. Please, security outlet, quickly go there to collect your key. Thank you very much. Okay. Sorry, when the presentation was going on, we had two other discussants that joined us. We have Builder John Ugweri, who is also a member of the Research and Development Committee of the Institute, and Professor Martin Dada, a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Building, a professor of construction management from the University of Lagos, and a member of the Research and Development Committee with a bigger cap of the former vice chairman of Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria. Don't mind the size, he has so many things very big in him. Thank you very much. I now hand over to my own moderator. Thank you very much, moderator.
Thank you very much, distinguished builders. Good morning and welcome to this morning paper. You've already heard the presenter as he enumerated the impact of builders in housing development in Nigeria. And I'm sure that as builders, we are further enlightened on what the skill set we need to possess to be able to impact positively on this housing delivery. And as you have it here, we have three discussants who will throw light on this particular subject matter within their own perspective, looking at these imperatives of builders' involvement for successful housing development. I think it's important that we all pay attention and listen very, very well. This topic impacts directly on we as builders and our functions in housing development value chain. So it's part that we listen very well. There are other areas that we impact on this value chain as builders. And I'm sure my discussion will throw more light on them so that we can continue to learn and be able to do our job perfectly well out there for our clients and for other stakeholders. It's my pleasure to call the four discussants, Dr. Okole. The pattern is going to take is that we throw a question to the discussants and they throw light on it. Any of them can take up the question and throw more light on it. So for me, I would just say the discussant should be at about 2 so that they can take note of the questions. As builders in the value chain of housing delivery, what other ways, apart from being a resource person, can we impact on housing development in Nigeria? As builders in the housing development value chain, what other areas can we be involved apart from being a resource person?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There are so many ways we can be involved. One good thing about the paper, what I have seen from what this paper has thrown up, is that it has some practical application. That it's a building profession is a practical thing, and housing delivery is also a practical thing. So there are so many ways we can be involved. Like you said, we had yesterday the president of Redan, when he threw up some opportunities available in Redan. Builders can key into that housing delivery through the primary mortgage housing scheme. You can go into that place and then take some loan and begin to be part of the development process, particularly the one he talked about taking about 5 units or 10 units of building. So one can start from there. We can also go into material development, looking for ways that we can make the housing delivery cheap by going into research and then finding out alternative housing materials that can help us to fast track the building delivery process. Thank you.
Yes, Professor.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, housing is becoming a new thing and an emergent issue in this country. I'm not saying the problem of housing is new, but the attempt to solve them through the organized private sector like Redan is just taking momentum. Now, the paper has talked about, the presenter talked about a builder being a resource person, a project manager. But my feeling is that in all these, the builder is just an employee. I'm not denigrating the paper, I'm just saying another dimension the builder should think about is think higher. What stops the builder being the entrepreneur? What stops the builder being the employer? As a matter of fact, his paper has let us know that we are strategically positioned. Housing is a new concept in this country. And builders, by our training, we are strategically positioned to harness all the resources. There are so many things in the value chain of housing, apart from what we are, the finance aspect, the legal aspect, the land aspect, the off-takers aspect, the mortgage dimension. So a builder, number one, can be an entrepreneur. And I think we should challenge ourselves that if somebody who read accountancy, somebody who read law, will be an entrepreneur, will have an organization to develop, is a developer, and is employ other professionals, what stops builders being in the lead? And good enough, I'm aware, even in this audience, or in this people who have come to this AGM, I'm aware of people who are developers. That's number one. Number two, a builder can be involved in training and development. If you go to the management sciences, accounting, management consulting in those days, you'll see people doing training. But if you check now, training is coming our way. What stops us, you and I, training people who are even developers, giving some training, and some people have been involved. What some of the things they taught us in building, do you know that if you give 1/10 of them in training, they will be looking at you as king? Some of the things we come here to train people for, maybe in our line, in our profession, maybe production management, health and safety. Do you know some of these entrants, they don't have some of this basic knowledge. You can train them from the management to the lower level. That's another area a builder can be involved. Another thing I feel the builder can be involved is what I will call post-project audit. We've been hearing reports that some projects in Abuja, some of these estates, after some time they are horrible, they are just shelter in code, but give them 20, 30 years, maybe they are gone. You can be doing post-project audit for some people. Yes, many of these developers have what called facility management factored into it. That after we finish the development, we do facility management. But you are going to create problems for facility managers when a building is not properly constructed. So I think what a builder should do is take strategic position, not just in being employed, but exploring all these areas that he can fish up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Builder John.
Okay, they said that when the bishop has spoken, the Reverend Father has nothing to say. When we look at the topic, the imperative of builders' involvement, imperative there means the necessity. And over the years, we have hammered on that, the necessity of involving a builder in a construction project delivery. And we have come to look at it in one way, that the builder is always at the center of construction. He's the fulcrum or the pivot of building construction activity. Somebody made mention of research and development. I think this is one of the core areas that the builder has to center on. These days we build with blocks, we build with bricks. I'm looking at a time in the future where we will now shift from this craft base into something more sophisticated, modern block, concrete, and even mods. I'm looking for a situation where we can go look into some maybe green materials that can sustain the life of a building over a very long period of time. It is high time we begin to shift from this conventional way of building houses to now a more advanced way of building houses. It is on record that maybe for some time some people will say that in some countries that there's a particular building that has been constructed or was constructed under 48 hours. And some people begin to wonder whether such thing is possible. Yes, it is possible. And it can only be possible if we develop ourselves into research on building materials. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will just take the last discussant on this particular topic. Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have to wear two caps here as a coordinator and a discussant. Thank you, Usman, for this your presentation. It's very important to note that the builders are very, very important in housing delivery. If you check what is happening now, it's not that the buildings are not there. I'm just wondering, every day we are shouting, no housing, no this, no that. But if you look around in Abuja today, there are almost more buildings than human beings. Buildings are growing every day. But the problem is that, is it that they are targeting the exact people that we are looking for? I think as builders, apart from just having the technology to build, we should also develop a more modern approach of delivering housing for those that need it. In fact, you design a building that is for 20 people and one family is just staying there. And at the end of the day, nobody is going to be able to pay for it. You go to some other places, buildings are about vertical development, not horizontal. In the next 100 years, I don't know what's going to happen in Abuja today, from today, because by 100 years' time, we would have consumed almost all the available spaces because of the horizontal development. So I want to believe that if builders can begin to work together with those who design and those who actually initiate, to be able to begin to think of more modern ways of accommodating more people and providing more shelter than buildings, I think that is very, very important. You go to Asokoro, you see so many buildings, nobody are there. Nobody is there. You go to almost everywhere in Abuja today, so many buildings, but the people are not there because those buildings are beyond those people that they designed them for. So I want to believe that by research, we would have been able to come up with a more practical approach to other models of buildings that can accommodate more people than just the buildings. I think this is very, very important the way I look at it. And secondly and lastly, let us look at it that as builders, we said the other time when we did that BIM thing, you see the dynamism of development. Many issues are coming up. I was watching WhatsApp for our own platform, Carbon and Academia, and I saw that a machine has been developed to lay blocks, and we saw the speed with which it was laying 3,000 blocks per a particular time that we need 10 people to do, and those 10 people can only produce 300 blocks that may not be of quality. That means that apart from just the technology of it, the way the thing is changing, we need to begin to position ourselves to also change along this line. By this way, we'll be able to contribute more and make ourselves more relevant. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just a brief remark by Professor Dada on this same particular question.
Thank you, sir. It just came to me that the bottom line, nobody is in estate property development for charity, except they are doing what we call social housing. There is no free lunch in Freetown. So what happens is that a challenge builders we need to face is it's beyond saying I'm trained as a construction expert, I'm a carbon register builder. Look, the entrepreneur over there, the developer over there is looking at his bottom line. He's looking at the profit. It's not even enough to say I build houses of 10 floors. That's what you are trained to build. I can build. It's like a woman say I can deliver. It's normal. So you can build because you are trained as a builder. But the entrepreneur is interested that with 1.2 million, what can you give me? That's the real life challenge now. Some of us are on the WhatsApp platform where these issues are being raised, that we are building to a particular cost. When there was a lot of money in Nigeria in those days, whatever you do, somebody picks the bill. But now somebody is saying, I have 1 million naira and I want 2 bedrooms. So ideas are coming. Is it collapsible? Is it convertible? Are we using the Japanese method? In Japan, your office in the day becomes your bedroom in the night. It's just a measure of maybe the sofa you are sitting on becomes a bed in the night. And so these are fundamental issues that we have to see how we design, build to cost. And that takes us to our construction methodology, small methods. Sir, if you are able to save 100,000 on a unit of building, and you are building 100 of them, you save 10 million naira for that developer. So that means it's going to be tasking us about technology, about how we can reduce costs. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for all the discussants. We just take on the next question now. Yes, most of us are happy that we are builders, and we go about boasting that we are builders. From this paper presented, can we have critical skill sets that a builder needs to survive in this housing development sector? Because as builders, it is beyond just being a builder to be able to survive in this sector. We need to have some set of skills to be able to survive. So maybe the scholar can throw more light on this so that we as builders can prepare our mind onto this set of skills. Because I tell you an experience, a lot of people out there can build just like you, but there's something that defines you as a professional builder than the quacks. So what are those set of skills that the builder should possess to be able to survive in this turbulence, taking into cognizance cost, time, and quality?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We need skills, yes. Technical skills are very, very important. We need to develop our competence in the use of softwares, computer softwares. We should also have political skills too. We should get involved in politics so that we'll be able to be relevant. And then we should also know how to, our methodology too, construction methodology. Because if you have a very good construction methodology, you can make more profit in the construction, in delivery process than somebody who doesn't have that kind of skill. So methodology, the construction methodology skill is very, very key. Then computer skill is also very important. Then again, as I said earlier, we must also develop our research skills, because research is key to everything we are doing. If we don't sharpen our research skills, we cannot explore new ways of doing things. So I think these are the areas we should, be competent. Thank you.
All right, thank you. A round of applause for him. Yes.
Thank you, sir. In addition, I feel we need advocacy skills. And I think a bad product that is well marketed, people will buy it. A good product that is not properly marketed will remain in the backwaters. So I think we builders, we need to be able to have advocacy. And let's look at it in our country. Even laws that are passed, bills that are enacted to law, oftentimes they are products of advocacy. So I think advocacy at so many levels with other professionals, with other stakeholders, and one challenge we need to throw to ourselves is, oftentimes some professionals just talk to themselves. Majority of people in this house are builders, am I right? Or people in the building profession. We talk to ourselves, but we are not existing in isolation. We are in a society, we are not in the moon. So if we have advocacy skills, networking skills, social skills, we interact with other people. For example, we challenge ourselves. If a professional body is doing a program now, or somebody in Abuja is doing a program, MBA, or some other professional bodies, what stops a builder going there to attend the program? I mean, if it's not strictly for MBA, but if it is a particular development country, what stops us being there? Then in the process, because they may be taking some decisions that may impact on us, and if we are not there, later we begin to react. I think social skills, advocacy skills, and lastly, communication skills. I think it's major. You've got to know how to communicate with all the stakeholders on the project.
That is very important, and I hope that we are taking note, because beyond just being builders as professionals, there are certain things that makes us complete. If you are going to compete in the turbulent water of housing development, whether we like it or not, that to study building alone is not adequate. You need to be able to acquire that set of skills that can make you successful in housing development. Yes, Professor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Dada, for that aspect, which we normally look at as interpersonal skills. We discovered that people can know the work, but relational skills have always been a problem. People, sometimes you discover somebody who has been given job, we end up quarreling with the owner of the work, and at the end of the day, the whole thing will just crash. So we need to also develop how we relate with people and how we actually interface with all the stakeholders involved in whatever we are doing. It's very, very important. And again, we are beginning to think that people should also look at these small skills that are involved in the construction sector. I mean, in the delivery of building projects. I can remember the chairman of Cobon saying himself is a carpenter. And they say, oh, actually is also in masonry or maybe block laying. We want to begin to look at these areas where people, at least, even though you are a builder, there's one particular area that you are a very big expert. Because some of these doors that we keep saying that the Chinese are producing, they are actually as a result of somebody who has majored in those areas and are able to deliver better quality in that small area. So it's very, very important that we begin to look at those small soft skills that will help us to excel in those aspects. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think I have to add, when we talk of skill, we shouldn't forget what I call technical and vocational skills. If we must get it right, because I believe we have been lost somewhere. If we watch most of the renowned builders we have in Nigeria today that we can be proud of, they also pass through this vocational training. It's not all about classroom, talking. Sometimes we need to practicalize these things. We need to show it that we can do it. I am looking for days when we'll still go back to technical schools because it is very, very important. I still emphasize technical and vocational skills. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Like you have heard, yes, as you have heard so far, we want to throw it open now to the audience in case you have any question about the paper presented, so that suggestion or comments that can impact on the imperatives of builders and housing development. Because as you all know, housing development is one area that the builder thrives on. And everything must be done to make us be prepared to take on these challenges so that we can be successful in our involvement. So the floor is open for comments, contribution, criticisms, or anything. Yes, can you come forward, please? Any other person? Because every day we see that housing development is going on everywhere. The question we keep asking is that where are the builders not involved in this housing development? Or why is it that there are very few builders who are involved? I believe that this paper and this discussion can throw more light on our involvement, how we can be involved, how we can be successful in our involvement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dr. Ladiron from UNILAG Department of Building. Thank you for the presentation, but my concern, that is where I actually want to contribute, is in the area of the consultancy. I realize that we builders, we are concentrating at the lower end, and most of the decisions, like even the contribution that is going to impact on design, on construction methodology, they are done at the design level, at the planning stage. Buildability, maintainability, and all our documents that we ought to have prepared at the planning stage. We are not paying enough attention as builders to that area. We are more or less concerned more with the practical on site, and before we get there, a lot of things will happen. So I want to challenge us to begin to take up consultancy endeavor, consultancy effort, not just in the area of research and development, that's fine, but we also need to look at that. And even talking about skill development, quite a lot of us, we need to develop ourselves on this consultancy skill. Some of the documents we have to be preparing as builders, I'm not too sure if all of us have ample knowledge of what they are supposed to be. So that's my contribution. And secondly, I want to also say this, that over time, over the year, let me say maybe this is a reminder or a refresher call for some of us on the importance of builders in housing development. But that remains a problem, and the problem, he actually highlighted it, but that was not the main focus, and that is the populace. They are not aware of this importance about builders. How do we get them more informed, more aware of us? Because that's actually the main area where we are that missing link. Unlike the other allied profession, they seem to be more aware about them rather than us. I've been on a project whereby an architect, eventually I lost the job because the client believed that an architect can do it better with all the grammar, everything presented. So how can we solve this problem?
Thank you very much for that. We just take the questions together, then we respond together. Yes? Please, let us be brief.
Thank you, the table there, and the moderator. My name is Emmanuel Dufer. I'm from the Bayelsa chapter. I'm a building surveyor. The most important thing about skill acquisition you're talking about here is arbitration, which we missed. The other aspect he has mentioned about public awareness. The third aspect is the social engineering development process to which a builder should be a resource person, not only as a resource person, as a partner in determining the housing policies based on funding and other economic values. So I don't see where housing in this part of the world is determined only by academic discussions. Out there in the developed society, housing determines sometimes the economic or GDP of that country. If the housing properties in the UK drops, you find out they start telling you we're in recession. In this part of the world, we need to develop more policies in order to make sure that builders are quite relevant and housing is a unit which will determine the future and the social and economic development process.
Thank you very much.
All protocols duly observed. I am Yunus Mohammed Salih from Nubu Mali Polytechnic, Zaria. The fact that the private sector is keen into housing development, and looking at housing development, we're talking about delivery now. In delivery, in 2015, HR government, that is in UK, brought out under BEAM this principle of soft landing. The principle of soft landing is a situation whereby instead of a year of defect liability period, the builder or the constructor remains on site and transfers the knowledge of the building to the estate department for a minimum of 3 years to 5 years max, so that the knowledge of the building is being transferred. That will be a very good measure to be taken in in Nigeria, because it was enacted into law in Scotland in 2016 May. It was enacted into law that for all public buildings in UK, the builder or the constructor must take that principle of soft landing. I believe with the principle of soft landing, we should have control on the triple constraints, most especially of quality. That's my contribution.
Chinasa, Technology and Vocational Education at Ebonyi State University. My contribution is the aspect of the skill. Most of us lack communication skill, inability to communicate with our clients in the house delivery. And at times, because of our inability to relate with them, there will be misunderstanding and conflict. It also leads into managerial skill. After putting up the program for the house delivery, you discover that most of us will not follow the program as have been justified, and abandoning the processes involved in the program of house delivery will now make many of those houses being abandoned, and some of the clients will lose trust of the competency of the builder or those who are managing the house production. And lastly, there's another aspect I called trust ethics. Most of our clients have lost trust on their builders. If you agree with the cost of a project, let's assume a 10 million naira project, once you're giving some percentage, a kind of takeoff fund, most of us will divert it and will not implement the finances as has been programmed and discussed with our clients. And by the time we could not even reach a certain stage of the war. We are going back making a demand of another money. And there are some others who are well perfect in managing a project, who are not builders. At times they will even divert the responsibility they're supposed to give to the builders and give it to other people outside the building profession. And they will now stand to spearhead us, manage us, give us instruction, and we take directive from them, because the trust ethics is not built in us. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
My name is Biola Sylvester Galpo from Enugu State. My main concern is actually on policy making. I think that it is high time that builders get involved in policy making, because there's something that worries me, that makes me feel as if we are all stupid in this country. Take Abuja for instance. If you go around this town, most of the houses are empty. Our brother was saying something concerning houses that people are not living in. It doesn't make sense that we build houses and we are sure nobody's going to occupy those houses. Some years back, I've been thinking, how come we put up houses, we are putting up just duplex. If you take up, if you go with a drawing that you want to do some flats in some area, they tell you, no, what we need here is duplex. And you go around the whole town, virtually all those houses are empty. So I start wondering, is it not time that we will also get involved and tell these people, it does not make sense. Now, one of the reasons why they do it is because people, they're just businessmen, politicians who think by building those houses they're going to make so much money. They don't even know that if they break it down to flats, they will still make the same amount of money. But the fact is that most of the people that need, now, just for instance, there's an estate at this side of, if you are coming into this NAF, that estate has stood there for almost for some years. I am sure not up to 10% of that house, just there, is occupied. And in the next 10 years, it's likely that nobody's going to occupy it. And not just there, they are almost in the whole of Gwarimpa. I'm not even, leave Abuja, even in Enugu where I come from, the best estate, nobody's living. Nobody lives there. It's virtually empty. Now, when they want to put up houses for the middle class, they will now go right inside where they will suffer to go. Now, the choice estates, nobody will be living there. Please, I think it is high time we get involved in the policy making also.
Thank you very much. Yes, Bido. Please, let's make our comments or suggestions very, very brief. We are almost running out of time. Please.
Imperatives for builders in housing delivery in Nigeria. One thing I found out is that some housing development is bordered on policies of government. For example, the Physical Planning Act gave powers to the state governments with respect to physical development within their state. I take Anambra, for example. Recently, the House of Assembly passed Physical Planning Act and said builders are only to build up to 3 floors. I don't know where they got it, but some of our people who are in government, some of our people who are near the government, they know when they are initiating this thing, but they didn't even make other people who can, bear on it so that we have an input into what is being done. It's only when the policy had now been initiated that we start reacting. For builders to be relevant, we must be proactive. Put our ears wide to see policies that are being enacted in our various states so that we pursue it and make sure that we are relevant in issues like that. Otherwise, by being reactive, it may take more years. Because if we only will end at 3 floors, what of most of the places where skyscrapers, like if you go to Anambra, go to Onitsha area, you'll see 5-story blocks, 6 stories blocks that are, so you are not involved. So builders need to be very proactive and have their ears wide open to see where policies are being initiated which will affect their own work. Also, we found out that we are not so buoyant. I know when Cobon tried all they could to help the Physical Planning Act of Abia State. We did everything, perfected the document, but it was killed because the assembly people were asking for 4 million naira before they passed that act. If it is professions that have money, they can yield that 4 million and still get their views. But it didn't fly more than the first reading because we didn't have the 4 million to bribe. So oftentimes, for us to be very well recognized and have a hand in housing development, it borders on policy. So we should note that.
Thank you very much. I think we need to take about 2 more amongst the big masquerades. Prof, can we have your resourceful contribution?
I hope it is resourceful. A few years ago, soon after the National Building Code was accepted by the National Executive Council of Nigeria, Cobon sat down and hybrid the planning law in the state of Lagos and the planning law in Ogun State. And we perfected it into what we thought was better than either of those 2 laws. And we covered it with letters to every government of any state in this country. And we said, we suggest you enact a planning law which does 2 things. 1, includes the acceptance of the priorities in the National Building Code, the need for builders to be on your planning organizations so as to look at the building content in planning permission requests. And 3, to also include in it punitive sanctions against the breaching of those codes. Lagos State, as a result of this intervention, improved on their law. Ogun State agreed, but did not do too much. They put a town planner in charge of it, and builders did not immediately get acceptance until much, much later, when we had visits to the state by a few of us. I think Bamishile went once, I went a couple of times. Where is that man with big Babanriga? It's left. Lasabi went once. And it took a lot of intervention. In fact, I think the last time was about 3 years ago, when somebody who was my student in NIPS was the state head of service, and we got some mileage. But I think we are climbing the tree from the branches. We need to start from the stem. There's a lot of corruption in this country. Every move that is legitimate and progressive is slaughtered on the slab of corruption in this country. And the only way in which we can counteract this is for some of us to go into politics, as some have started to do. Bimbo wants to go to Senate. Some are already in the local government. We were expecting Jambo to go back to politics, but he is hesitant. But, as somebody said before, there are three issues involved. There is the technology of development, but there is also, more than anything else, social engineering. Most of the estates that are being built as housing estates in this country are corrupted because they are not really housing estates, they are barracks. Barracks are even better because soldiers know better than that. Soldiers provide other amenities within their barracks. We don't do that here. People move into those estates and they convert houses into other things. Things that they were not designed to be. And we say we are retrofitting. There's no way you can retrofit such edifices and make them do the things that you want them to do now. Not from the point of view of optimum planning of buildings, for functionality. What can builders do? I will wind up. Thank you. What can builders do? I have said one thing. Builders can go into politics and therefore influence political policy making. But more than anything else, from outside, we can continue to do the things we have done before, to try and make our politicians enact laws that enforce the code, and then continue on the other side to improve the content of those codes. I remember when Bamishile and a few others in other professions sat down and helped the National Assembly to actually fashion out a bill that would have covered everything we wanted. It died there because they sent a message to us that they wanted 13 million from each of the professions before they will pass those bills into law. Where do we go from here? I need people like you to go into politics. I need all of the young ones who are energetic to go into politics because it seems to be the only solution for us to be able to have an influence on what goes on here.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will do politics of practical professionalism. Now, to address this issue, to my mind, there are about three key areas. The first question is, how do we deal with quackery? Because that seems to be a central feature that has marred and covered the eyes of every serious mind to the realities of what it will take to deliver housing. First, we must also understand housing, that it is not an issue of cash and carry. It's not a thing you just go to the market because it's there, you pick and go. And that leads me to the second issue, which is paramount, the issue of policy. There are probably, in the Pali of understanding policy, three. You can either be operating a transitional policy or a transactional policy or a transformational policy. The national housing policy, for instance, that we have does not seem to define which way to go. It has hinged since 1990 itself on the issue of a transition, where housing was seen
from the days of colonial masters to be a matter of provision. Now, if you analyze that, you find that there are a number of issues that are not being addressed. For instance, let me just pick one. When you are having a policy of provision, how do you handle facilities or infrastructure that goes with the house itself? And so housing has never been viewed in its holistic view. So it has failed to define the actual roles of the key stakeholders in housing. And until that is done, until all the key stakeholders, their roles and responsibilities are identified and spelled out by the policy, we are not likely going to move. The third aspect of it is there are parameters that make housing holistic. It must, in its definition of policy, because those are the two things that I think I heard stand out clearly. They have to be inclusive, they have to be participatory, they have to bring in some collaboration, and there must be the element of holisticness in it. And so if we don't address these issues, that we age out Pakris, like Prof just said a moment ago, through the enactment of building laws, acts, that will catch people who are doing the wrong thing and punish them, then professionalism will never stand out. And so long as professionalism does not stand out, even our rules can be mad because we are suffering from professional quackery. And I think until we deal with that, we will not be out of the woods.
Thank you very much for all the contributors. We are running out of time, and I wish to take this opportunity to appreciate every question. They'll be answered at the right time as the program goes along. But the main thing I want to suggest is that as builders, we are experts. Sometimes you don't wait for people to call you an expert. You need to make yourself an expert and make known to people. Your personal confidence, based on the knowledge you have, the set of skills that you have, are the things that make you who you are. So let's not keep waiting. Quackery has been there from the beginning of creation. It will continue to be there. Let us focus on self-development, and then let us go into the field and show people who we are. And by so doing, I'm sure that we fare better. For housing development, like has been discussed this afternoon, a lot of those that are going on around are not done by builders. The question is, what are we doing? Are we looking for employment, or are we initiator to employ people? We must go back and ask ourselves that questions. People are doing housing development, town planners, even accountants. What are those things they have that we don't have? Those are the things we should start thinking about to make ourselves prepared to go into that industry and deliver who we are as builders. Thank you very much.
It's okay.
Thank you. Part of my comment, I think most of the questions is just like throwing more light on what is being discussed. There's a colleague from University of Lagos that highlighted the issue of consultancy, and I think one of the panelists there have directed that the issue of advocacy should be used to address a case of public unawareness on the role of builders. And well, what I would like to add is that you cannot divorce the issue of academics from the issue of professionalism. Wherever you go in the civilized society, what is driving the private sector in terms of professionalism is the academia. Of course, the academia look at the problems that are emanating from practice and see how they can provide solutions. And I still think the academics is still the driving force that is going to raise the participation of builders for successful housing delivery. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to thank all of you for having participated in this vibrant topic of housing. We know that housing is always a problem, and we pray that we will solve it one day. Even though you are solving the housing more problems will be created, because housing is always housing all the problems and also taking care of the problems. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, we are sorry for the way we spent time in this particular one. I know that you see, the builders are people who have gone to school. And I notice that people who have gone to school always talk much. So please, standardization paradigms for sustainable building infrastructures development in the Nigerian construction industry. To be delivered by builder Dr. Akeshola OE. Is it one person that will come? Okay. Representing the team of researchers and presenters of Akeshola, builder Alade Bola Adeshino, and builder Ikegu EM. Can we have a builder Akeshola, Doctor? Take your seat. Now, we have the moderator, as usual, who is going to anchor this one. Builder Professor Adekunle Wahab. Is he available?
He has gone to a meeting outside here.
He has gone to a meeting. Okay, we know the... Let's move on. We have the discussants. The discussants, we have President of NIA, Nigerian Institute of Architects. Is he here? Okay. We have DG Son, Abuja, engineer, heavily represented by Engineer Paul, okay? Okay, come in. Clap for them so that they will be excited to come. You know, there's a way that, you know what somebody said? He said, the color that you paint your house or you decorate wherever you are staying changes your mood. If you paint this place, the entire place red, I am telling you, you are going to carry gun. If you paint this house white, definitely you wake up and discover that you are celebrating your Christmas. Don't paint your house black hole, you will not wake up. Thank you very much. You're welcome, sir. Can we also call the president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers? Okay. President of Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors. We also have Builder Sambo. Is he around? Builder Sambo. He's been with us. Quickly come to the high table. Like we said, please quickly clap for them. And we have Builder Professor O.F. Job. Come to the high table for discussion. Come. Yeah. No.
Fred Job is around. Where is he? Why did it take it so long to get up? Go and sit down at once.
No, this. Sit down. No, we're taking. Okay, don't worry. You have your copy now. Okay. You have your copy. Good. We are waiting for the moderator, and we were doing fellows meeting just now.
He's not around. He has gone to a meeting.
Okay. Yes, quickly. Oh, yes. But Prof is. Yes, Prof. It's a discussant. Yes. Okay, I should take it. Okay. Okay. I will call my PPN, past president of Nigerian Institute of Building, to quickly take over the mantle of moderating this particular vibrant paper. Builder Dr. Ayo Bamishile. You're welcome. When I want to call his name, I always call it and do like Bamishile because I make it big. He's a big man. Thank you very much, sir. Paper number 2, essential standardization paradigms for sustainable building infrastructural development in the Nigerian construction industry by Builder Dr. Akinshola. Quickly, we call on Builder Dr. O.E. Akinshola to start his presentation. You can even? Yes, you can.
The chairman, the moderators, and the panelists. I'm here to present on behalf of my colleagues, Builder Ladeloba Adeshino and Ikwegu Emmanuel from Yaba College of Tech. The topic essentially looks at the essential standardization paradigm for the use of building materials, sustainable building material for building infrastructure development. The simple fact remains that we all know that building require an intensive capital and as such, we will want the building to last for a very long time. There is no one who wants to build and spend even 10 million and want the building to collapse in 5 years or to be demolished in 5 years. Naturally, the established lifespan of a building is 50 years. It does not mean that the building cannot live more than 50 years, but the useful life of a building is 50 years before you can start thinking of redevelopment, innovation, and remodeling. And for this building to live for that 50 years without much problem, it means the material that will be employed in the construction of such building must be of quality standard. And that is where standardization of building materials comes in. What do we mean by that? When we talk of standardization of material use, it can fall into 2 parts: production standardization and application or installation standardization. When we talk of production standardization, it falls under the purview of Standard Organization of Nigeria, but this paper will extend it beyond SON because we have found a gap existing between what SON is doing and what is obtainable in Nigeria today. Now, the second one, which is the practice standard. The practice standard involves the constructor, the contractor, the builders. Now, we want to look at the standard practice that goes along with some of the materials we are using in the construction industry. We should look at this paper as a practice paper. Even though it is a combined paper, it takes an observation. An observation were conducted across some sites in Lagos State, which comprises of multinational construction company, to look at their compliance with standard practice and see whether they are following the norms. The second aspect was administration of questionnaires to find out, one, whether those people who were involved in construction of building were actually knowledgeable on who is statutorily given the right to control standard of material use in Nigeria. The second one is to determine what is the level of substandard use of materials in the Nigerian construction industry. The third one was to look at the effects of the use of substandard materials on the housing stock in Nigeria. When we look at like I said, SON is statutorily saddled with regulatory control by the act that established them right from the Gowon era. It was reviewed during the time of General Ibrahim Babangida and subsequently reviewed about 2 times later. But it does not take the authority of statutorily controlling the standardization of material use in construction process from SON. It only changed its name The name they were having before is different from SOM, but today we know them as Standard Organization of Nigeria. The practice standard is essentially the work and the focus of a production manager. And from the first paper presented, he defined builders as somebody who is a specialist that has been trained in the skill and art and science of building construction process and later registered, passed all the professional association exam before he gets registered with Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria. That means after going through educational qualification, he must still enlist with the professional association, which is Nigerian School of Building, and get equally trained by NIOB before he can be passed over to Cobon for test of competence and interview. It is after he has passed through these 3 stages that he can become a registered builder. And this is the person that is saddled with production management of construction process. Essentially, this is a builder. It means the trust of practice standard is on the shoulder of a professional builder. However, like I said, the standardization paradigms involved relevant professional bodies or associations. As it is obtained today, it is only SON that is doing this work, but they are trying to key in professional association and professional body. As the paper goes on, we will find out the gap that is existing and why the professional body and association must key into the objective of SON in controlling the use of materials in Nigeria. Can we go to the next slide, please? It's not going. Okay. There is a constraint to the professional bodies and associations. There are 2 constraints why they cannot effectively be involved in the controls of use of standard materials in the construction process. The first one is legal. The legal aspect is the act that establishes them does not confer that role on them. And because of that, when they want to go and do this monitoring work, they want to go with the policemen, and the police will tell them, did your act give you that right to do the work? It is just of recent we are coming over that now. But in the past, the police will always ask for your act and find out whether in the act you have the responsibility to carry out statutory control. That is why we have to team up with SON to do this control of standardization of the material used in the construction process. The second aspect is the fund. The professional body does not have the fund required to do this control and monitoring. I remember Cobon has been working on monitoring construction sites to effectively control and monitor the use of standard materials at the construction process, but fund has been hampering this process for more than a decade. So the aspect of funding, because there is no budgetary allocation to professional body, they need Standard Organization of Nigeria to team up with them in order to achieve that aspect of their responsibility. The common materials used in the construction process are listed as shown on the screen. We find steel reinforcement is about the most major construction material that we are using, which impact positively or negatively depending on how we employ it. However, one thing we have discovered in terms of standard of steel reinforcement in the construction industry today is that constructors and builders generally assume that what we have in the market are standardized material. We just go to the market and buy reinforcement. We do not subject them to test. We do not even go to market with calipers to measure the diameter. We know the standard length of reinforcement is 12 meters. We go to the market and buy 11.5 meter length and consider it standard. And these are the problems that impact negatively on our construction process because, one, when you buy an 11.5 meter diameter reinforcement for use in the construction process, the 0.5 meter deficit is a lot of cost reduction, cost loss to the client, which we have to take care of. The other aspect is on the strength, the yield strength of the reinforcement. Naturally, we use BS standard in Nigeria, British standard, and currently most consultants are going to Euro standard. And because of that, we either employ 410, 460 Newton per millimeter square as the yield stress of the reinforcement, or if we are using mild steel bar, we look at 360 Newton per millimeter square. But most of the reinforcement in the market are lesser in yield stress than what is specified. That means when you go to the market to buy reinforcement, instead of getting your reinforcement at 460 Newton per millimeter square, what you have for the 460 may be in the region of about 380 Newton per millimeter square. And that is going to impact negatively on the strength of the reinforcement and the concrete. And that is why most of the concrete we are casting today cannot develop the maximum strength of 21 Newton per millimeter 21 Newton per millimeter square, 21 kilonewton per millimeter square in 28 days. Most of the reinforcement, most of the concrete element we have. I remember we did a building survey in Yabatek. After a building was constructed for 15 years and there are symptoms of stress, we were called upon to do the survey. And our survey revealed that even the column is 9 kilonewton per millimeter square after 15 years. So you can now imagine how long, what the strength of the column will be when it was recently constructed. And these are the problems that we have. Not only reinforcement, but the mix of the concrete equally affects the strength of the developed strength. So we have to look at reinforcement is affected in 3 forms: by diameter, by length, and in yield stress. And except in practice, we who are builders go to the market to buy reinforcement with calipers that we measure right there in the market, and we ask for the certification of the reinforcement that are in the market. What is the yield stress? If not, we take a sample and go and test it in a certified laboratory before we buy and purchase those reinforcements. Otherwise, we will use those reinforcements and we cannot go to sleep when we construct those buildings. So we have to be very careful. We're hammering more on practice standard here because we are builders, we are professionals, and we are the ones to deliver the safe houses required. And the only way we can do that is to ensure that some of the material we are using are standardized. In this aspect, I want to implore Nigerian Institute of Building. They have started very well in starting the process of product endorsement. Because one way of safeguarding quality material standard is the endorsement process. The institute should extend their net beyond 2 products that have been endorsed to virtually all the products that are here. Because I know the process involved in the endorsement process of the NIOB. We go into the factory, we look at the production process, we subject them to evaluation, subject them to standard rules obtainable, best global practices, look at their health and safety factor, we look at their managerial skill and look at how many builders are in their company before we can equally say, okay, this product is good for endorsement. We subject their product to test in a certified laboratory and the results are highly evaluated. So if you can do this to all brand of material we use in the industry, then we can be sure that going to the market to buy this product from certified vendor will not give us problem because we know where to go. For example, when we get to the issue of timber, we know the certified vendor that has been endorsed by NIOB. When we get to the tile, we know the certified vendor that has been endorsed by NIOB. But this should be replicated for all other materials that are commonly used in the construction process. If you go to table 1 in your paper in the proceeding, you will see the Euro standard, British standard, when reinforcement are subjected to 500 millipascal, what is the elongation in millimeter, and what is expected to be the yield stress. These are what you'll be looking for when you subject your reinforcement to test in a certified laboratory. Now, the next one is cement. Cement can be evaluated in 2 ways. In weight, that is by weight, which is in Nigeria today, cement are bagged in 50 kilograms. And the practice we observed in most of the sites we went was that when they want to mix their concrete, they measure the cement with earth pans. They said 1 bag contains 2 earth pans of cement. So they divide a bag of cement into 2 earth pans, and they use that to measure the bag of cement they put into the concrete mixer. This is defective in the process that most of the bags in the market today are rebagged. They are not full bag. What the sample survey we did, we found out that the bags are between 40 kilograms and 45 kilograms. About 5 kilograms has been removed from a bag, an expected 50 kilogram bag. And this is going to affect the mix ratio and the richness of the cement. And a builder should ensure that when you go to the market to buy cement, do a random sampling of the weight of the cement before you pick the number you wanted. Because the fact remains that we send our supervisor, go and bring me 50 bags of cement. And as they are bringing it onto the site, we continue usage without even checking the weight, whether it is actually right or wrong. We need to ensure that this is done. Otherwise, we will not be different from the ordinary contractor outside. That is the mark of difference between builders and ordinary contractor outside. The second aspect is that when we were in school, a lot of tests are done on cement. But we found out that in most of the multinational construction companies we visited, there is no test carried out on cement before they are used for rendering, for any other work on the site. We know of consistency limit test. It is no longer done, or it's not done on any site we visited. We find out that they just use the cement straight from the mixer and no test is carried out on them. But you will agree with me, we are all practicing builders. Do we equally carry out consistency limit tests on our cement before we use it? We don't. We are forgetting all those things, and those are the things we want to focus attention on. Before you use all these items of materials, ensure that these tests are carried out. This is the difference between a builder and ordinary contractor outside. You can be sure that when you do the right thing, what you are going to get out at the end of the day will be a quality product. And apart from that, we go to wood timber. We know timber is an hygroscopic material. Hygroscopic in nature because it attracts moisture from the environment, and it comes, when you even fell it in the forest and bring it to the sawmill, it comes very wet. You will equally agree with me what we have observed, that it is what is normally done on site. Contractor will go to timber market. We needed maybe 500 pieces of 2x2 woods. We needed 200 pieces of 3x2 woods timber, and we take it to the site maybe 2 days after we start the roof carcass with this material. It is very, very wrong. Why is it wrong? There is no seasoning. We do not season this timber that we are using, the plank we are using. Normally, timber must supposed to be seasoned for about 3 to 4 months, even sometimes 5 months. Depends on the level of moisture it contains and the approvable moisture content of the timber you want to use, because each of these timber have very moisture content. The one for internal use have different moisture content. The one for external use have different moisture content. Do we know all the different moisture content this timber supposed to be before we apply them? We don't do. Our observation on the site shows that most of the head carpenters and foremen on site do not know this. And apart from that, we ask them how long do they store their timber on site before they use them. They said they bring them 3 days to the site to the date of use, and they use them straight away. That can be responsible for most of the failure associated with our timber in our houses, the roof and the frame and other things, because the moisture content contained in the timber influences the insect damages that occur to them, insect borer, wood insect borer, termite infestation and other things. The other aspect that we don't do again is the wood preservation. Wood preservation is an essential aspect of our standard practice. Before you use wood in the house, it has to be preserved. The Nigerian School of Building has approved the first and the most trustable wood preservatives in Nigeria, which is Solignum. And they have encouraged us to use Solignum for most of our for all our wood preservation on the site. And the company has equally trained us in one of our workshops on how to apply Solignum. That they are not encouraging us to use Solignum with brushes, but if we can use it by immersing it in the Solignum, or we use pressure infusion, it is the best way, so that it can occupy the pores inside the wood, and it will protect whatever insect that wants to damage it. We need to look at, we know that Solignum is a branded name and it has been endorsed. So if we want to preserve our wood, we can use Solignum because NIOB has endorsed it. That is what we are advocating here, that all other products, all other materials that are used in the industry should be endorsed. Because before endorsement, there is evaluation and assessment. And professionals that are using them will go to bed with their eyes closed because they know they are using products that have been evaluated, assessed and approved for use. The other is concrete. Concrete is a composite material made up of fine aggregate, coarse aggregate, and cement that we have talked about. In the MCPD conducted by Cobon and NIOB for about 3 times under project quality management process. Okay. Under project quality management plan, they said if you bring a material fresh to site, you put a red flag. The red flag implies that this material is just brought to site, it has not been tested, and it is not yet approved. It cannot be used. If the materials have been tested, you put yellow flag on the material. That shows that the material has been tested, but it is not yet approved. You cannot use it. But when you see a material with a green flag, it means it has been tested, it has been approved. You can use that for any work you want to do on site. As builders, we need to follow this procedure. If we come to your site, we see this flag on your materials, or you just use them anyhow. We find on all the sites we went, there is nothing like that. In the aggregate bins, they just dump this material. Even though they are multinational construction company, they do not. They claim to follow ISO 9000 series, but they don't follow standard in the ISO standard. So we should ensure that we follow this practice standard in most of our sites. When the materials are brought in, the sand, test it for silt and presence of mud. Equally, you can test it for salt, efflorescence, another thing. If you don't do it, it means you are putting dangerous materials into the concrete element, and the concrete you will get out will not be as strong as expected. So we have to be ensured of what we are doing. The same thing goes for the aggregate. You will agree with me in this aspect that our aggregate, the specifications are not being strictly adhered to today. When they specify 16mm aggregate, you find them using 24mm aggregate. Except consultant come to site and say, this is not the aggregate we specify. Contractor will use them that way. Some of our members does not even know the difference between 16mm aggregate, 20mm aggregate, and 24mm aggregate, and we are registered. We need to go back for what Cobon and NIOB have been talking about. Mentoring. Go and self-populate under a verified and certified builder who has this experience, so that you can gather this knowledge for your own practice as well. Brick Olo Sancrete block. National Building Code of 2006 approved by the Executive Council, Federal Executive Council of General Obasanjo, specified 2.1 Newton per millimeter square for the concrete block. However, random sampling and survey we did revealed that in Lagos State, some of these blocks we tested were within the region of 1.5 Newton and 1.8 Newton millimeters, and these are what we use naturally in all the buildings. And what do you expect from a substandard material? You get a substandard quality. So we have to be, when we want to buy material, the practice is that some people use the number of cement that they will use in producing number of blocks, and because of that they take up production of block themselves. That is not enough to ensure standard. Subject this to comprehensive test in a certified laboratory at random to ensure that you attain that limit specified in the building code. That is the only time you can say what we are using is standard. I have less than 10 minutes now. Pipe and wires, 60% of construction cost goes into services. Not construction cost, goes into material. But the deficiency in building, after the building has been delivered, 60% of defects as identified in building are traced to services. That is pipe work and electrical work. Now, this is because the pipes are substandard in nature. The only way we can safeguard ourselves from this is to have an experienced plumber. It's just like when you want to buy a tire in the market today. You cannot say because you are a graduate, you go to the tire market and buy a tire and you tell me it's a standard tire. No, even if it has a tag on it, it does not show, it does not prove that it's a standard tire. You go with a good and recognized vulcanizer who has an experience in it. He will show you the right one, the good one to buy. And you can now have rest of mind that what you have is good. Now, the same way, if you want to buy pipe and fittings, apart from the fact that some of them will claim to have been certified good by SOL, some of them are not so good. That is why I'm saying that NIOB should endeavor to do more of certification and endorsement. This will help us to get standard material for use. The other one is paints, stains. On the pipe, let me equally say there are tests that you are expected to carry out. You have what we call smoke test for the plumbing work. If there are leakages in your network, you will know if you carry out smoke test or water leakage test. If you don't do this, most of us don't do this thing. When we lay this pipe, we just close them up like that, we paint. And after they start using the building, all these leakages shows in the house. And we have to be very careful that these standard practices are complied with. The next one is paint, stain and varnishes. Some of us who have been in the system for some time, we know that the paints of today are highly substandard. In the past, when you buy paint, you can mix it with kerosene. You can use extender and thinners, and they will equally still be good. But today, it is not expected. You are not expected to use any thinner on the paint, no extenders, no varnishes. Because this will, you will rather make the quality of the substandard material to be very much lower. Because the material is no longer, when you even apply the paint straight, you will find out after a day or two that it is watery in nature. So don't apply water to the emulsion paint and don't apply extender or thinner to the paint, to the oil paint. Use them as they are, and if they are not good enough, you can apply it 2 times. One area to, you see that in specification today, some consultants will specify branded paint that are very, very costly. They will tell you they want IPWA or Dulux because they know these are the ones they can trust. But I will tell you, buying Dulux and IPWA does not guarantee standard. Because when you go to the market to buy this paint, the marketers are mixing them by themselves. They use the containers of this painter for the mix. So ensure that you either buy from the manufacturer straight or direct, or you have a vendor that is respected that you can buy from. The standard for paint can be seen in table 4, Euro standard and British standard that can be followed. Tiles and floor finishes. We have this problem on tiles and floor finishes. We just buy tiles and we use them like that. You don't measure your tiles length and breadth. And that is why when you lay them, they are not straight and you have this disfigure setting. But the practice is that before you use this tile, measure them, the length and breadth, and see that they are square. And if they are rectangular in nature, measure that the rectangles are the same with one another before you start laying. Or you sort the ones that are equal in length and breadth out, so that you use those good ones and the bad one will be kept aside. Otherwise, the network or what you are laying will not come out fine. That is one thing. The second thing is that when you are laying tiles, we use eye for measuring the interstices distances now, the spaces between them. In the past, we use plastic spacers, and this is the standard practice. Use plastic spacers for the space between them if it is going to be spaced. And if it is not going to be spaced, if it is going to be internet, then you don't need a plastic spacer. But if you go into the space, use plastic spacers. So ensure that you have accurate spacing between the tiles. The standard tile test and practices are equally in the materials I've given to you. The paradigms, the frameworks that we're discussing about is that when we went out to the questionnaire we administered, the professionals that we surveyed from the built environment agreed that the regulatory organization saddled with control is SON. Majority of them agree that SON is supposed to do the regulatory control of material used in the construction. But they equally said they have discovered that SON cannot do it alone. They need the professional bodies to work with them. Then, secondly, they said the level of substandard material used in the country is very, very high. That is, the level of substandard material used are very high. Instead of using standard material, most of the material used are substandard. And that is reflective in the quality of housing stock in the country. Then the effect on the housing stock is that it results into dilapidation, deformation, and eventual building collapse. My colleagues, you will know that if we ensure that we follow standard practice, we can minimize and mitigate the gap of statutory control of standard organization, because we will shift the shaft from the widths. We will know the good one from the bad one, and we use the good one, keep the bad one aside. But if the standard organization of Nigeria be the statutory regulatory control organization that are saddled with the responsibility, can team up with the professional body, then they will provide fund that is missing, and the professional body can monitor construction process and see whether they are using standard material for the construction process or not. I want to thank you for listening. Thank you.
I think the presenter deserves a better round of applause. Thank you very much, Builder Akishola. Now, I will now call on the discussants to at least make their further comments before we throw the topic open for members to either ask questions or equally bring to bear on this topic their own personal experience.
Thank you, sir. I, representing the Director General of Standards Organization of Nigeria, in person of Barrister Osita Buluma, I'm so happy to be here with you, distinguished members, and all the participants and members of the high table. Actually, when we receive a message like this, we are so much interested to be part of it. That's why we are here. The Director General could have been here himself in person, but due to the present issue that demanded his attention in Lagos, and I directed me that I should come and represent him with my colleague. The issue at hand related to essential standardization paradigm for the sustainable building infrastructure development in Nigerian construction industry is very germane and very important to us. SON cannot do it alone. I want to give you a tip. I agree with the presenter. Thank you very much, sir. It's an in-depth. But we need to go further beyond that. When I was at the port, somebody was transporting a milk from Lagos to Adamawa State. That was 1992. We now said we want to check. The next thing he said, let me set you and go. Unfortunately, I collected his paper. The language you put across to me is that if you move out of that port, it's your dead body they will carry. Nigerians, what do we do? I have to give out the paper to my colleagues and disappear. My life is very, very important. That's the problem we are facing in SON with the society. With the in-depth given to us, we go to factory for inspection to check from the raw material to the end process. We can never be there 24 hours. We do quarterly regular meet check-up on every product, specialist, including builders, various professional bodies, and also people that are technically in-depth, knowledgeable about that process. We are involved, but the problem we have in the society today is employment. If you go to FCT, perhaps you can only see hardly about 30 officers to cover all various products. And where are we going? We cannot be all over. We depend and rely on you. S1 is just a custodian of standard secretariat. I remember when I was in Akure, somebody requested for 0.5 for his house. Unfortunately, by the time he put it there during the dry season, it was okay. The rainy season came, the house was leaking. A house project of moving of 1.8 million. The man was confused. What will he do? He went to the manufacturer. The manufacturer said, it's not their own fault. Raise another money for them to change it. He complained. After about 3-4 months, the man refused to attend to him. He came to our office. We did the first thing. Procedure was before him. We went there to check the processes. By the time we finished the construction, we did a simple test. There was a leakage. The MD could not talk again. He said, I will replace everything. If we don't talk, we'll be wasting our resources. And that's why we need you need us. And SON cannot develop standard without your input. Please, let us have that one. We are secretariat. Is what you make as an input we would now enforce. Like what the resource person I just mentioned. Many years ago, we don't have issue of collapse of building, but it has become a norm. And we have to go, the first thing we have to check is the raw material. We started from the steel industry. And when we went all over the Federation, it was appalling. The length, substandard. Strength, substandard. We have to see many of them up. All those that are selling were crying. We went to the company and we did all those. But today, I can beat my chest. There is a drastic reduction in collapse of building. As at now. Because why? Collaboration with various professional bodies. Collaboration with various professional bodies. We need you. And we need to do the work together. And there is an act now, sir. SON Act 2015 is more powerful. Wherever you are caught, the product will be confiscated and destroyed, and you'll be jailed. It's either to pay 2 million naira for you to effect the changes, or both. 10 years minimum. And you know the implication. So that's why there's an improvement. But however, we cannot be everywhere. I remember when I was in Enugu engineering lab, they brought sample in 1992 for analysis. That sample contained a lot of very, very fine cement, sand. Very, very fine sand embedded inside cement bag. Somebody will use it to build. It was in the process we now realized that there was an adulteration. They do that packaging in the night. They will sell onto us in the daytime. If you see any cement that is less than 50 kg, they must have removed some of the material with a spout. Please don't use it. Complain. They will now do the traceability with the seller. That's one of those things that we do. If you don't have any complaint to make, there's no way we can solve the problem. But when the message comes to our notice, we act immediately. Then here I noticed that the presenter used foreign standards. We have Nigerian standards. We have Nigerian standards. As I'm here with you, I only have civil construction material standard, about 50 something. Generally, if you are talking about standards, we have almost about 3,000 different standards. Nigerian standards. Let us inculcate using our own standard to see what we can do to improve on it. Thirdly, is that before we can certify any product, there must be standard products. If there is no standard for that product, there is no way we can certify that product. Please let us have it in mind. And any product we have certified is still remain monitoring, because we have to monitor every period quarterly, 4 times in a year. If there is deficiency, then that certificate will be withdrawn. Lastly, is that the aggregates is a very serious issue. Please, whenever you are getting aggregates, check the quality, check the size, and raise question yourself. Because when we go to the quarry, we have an issue that we have to address with the quarry and the buyer. Supplying aggregate from Ondo State to Ugeli, about 15 trucks. Unfortunately, what was given to him was different from what he requested. Now it became an issue. How will he get his money back? We came in between, and the company was able to allow that product to waste away and give him another one based at various stages, so that there will be a balance of issue or concerning funds, so that nobody will be a loser. It's win-win or true. We are there to ensure that whatever you have, you get value for that money. Don't let us lose whatever we have. We are professionals in our own field. And before you go to the field, he has given us a tip. And I want us to go back home with that tip. Whenever you buy a material, if that material is not good after test, please don't let it die down there. Complain, because it will go all over the country. And I'm talking to you right now, we are mopping up the market with substandard sugar all over the federation. The same thing we did for reinforcement pack. The same thing we do for any product we hear that is substandard. And what we do, they flood the market with all those substandard products. If we don't talk, when you see something, say something. Don't let us keep quiet. Thank you very much.